What's up, guys? This is Andrew with Knowledge for Men, and today I'm here with Brian Burke. He's been a dating coach for 8 years. He's been trained with Vin DiCarlo, and he's here to help me out with the 30-day challenge that I'm doing. I'm approaching 10 girls a day. I've had some questions, ran into Brian Burke at a marketing event, and he's here to help us out. So, Brian, if you can give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I'm going on 8 years, 7.5. I started in 2006 as a coach for DiCarlo Declassified. That's what it was called at the time. And then the name changed to DiCarlo Coaching, and I was the head coach there for about 5 years. Developed Pandora's Box, the attraction codes, some stuff the guys might know about. And like 2 years ago, I broke off and started GoBeyondDating.com, so that's my website.
Nice.
And yeah, so I've just been doing it independently on my own for like the past 2.5 years, and I love it. That's why I'm still doing it.
Awesome. That's why we got him here. He's got a lot of experience, and we're going to go through some questions, and it's designed to help the audience and the viewers at Knowledge for Men really trying to understand how we can best approach women, how we can build those interactions and make it so that when we get that phone number, we're getting the date and we're really just being successful with women. So, Brian, let me just ask you, what was your major aha moment where you learned that you can become successful with women? It's something that you can learn to do.
There were sort of two. The first one was actually on a boot camp, which, if guys don't know, that's like a typically 3-day, you can do longer ones. I like to do 4 days, but that's an in-person coaching program. And I did one way back in the day. I was maybe, it was with Vin DiCarlo actually back in, I would say 2005 maybe, something like that. And I went through the program. First day I was horrible. I was like, we went out and I was like getting mad at girls because they wouldn't talk to me. But you know, they shouldn't have, because I was weird. I was awkward. So I was like getting mad and flustered. And then over the course of like 3 days, I gradually made real improvements. And then the last approach I did, where I walked up to a girl who was just like my 10, my perfect girl, just beautiful. She was French and Chinese mixed, and it was at a Halloween party at this big, like, really posh nightclub in Chicago. Of course, the crows want to come out. But it was this posh nightclub in Chicago, and she was with these two. She was dressed really skimpy, just beautiful girl with these two big, like, Guido-looking Jersey Shore guys, right? And then there was me. I wasn't like in shape at the time. I was kind of like skinny and just awkward, and I approached her, and I got to talking to her. I had her laughing and stuff, using the stuff I learned. And I was nervous as hell, but I was applying what I learned, right? And then one of the guys comes up and literally just picks her up and carries her away from me.
Oh my gosh! So
I'm like standing there with my dick in my hand, like, what do I do? And so basically, I decided, you know, we're getting towards the end of the night. This is the weekend, you know, of my training. I'm gonna try to keep it going and see what I can do.
Right.
And I walked up. I dealt with the guy. In a way that sort of tooled him, but he felt like I was respecting him, but I was actually sort of, between me and the girl, she understood that I was dominating him, but in a very subtle way, again, stuff I learned, and then quickly transitioned to her, pulled her to a couch. We were sort of just really engaged for the next like half hour, talking. I was touching her, and everything went really well. And then I stayed in touch with her for a long time, but I lived in Michigan at the time. The other thing, so basically that was like, okay, I applied what I learned. Even though I was nervous, even though I was a little awkward, I really, by applying what I learned, I got through, successfully, I got through a very tough situation that I think for most guys, they would have just
walked away.
Definitely. And then when I got back to my hometown in Michigan, where I was still living, I went out one night with a buddy of mine, and I saw just a beautiful, she turned out to be Puerto Rican, really curvy, dark-haired Latina, and I, you know, just like saw her and was like, oh my God, and of course, started getting nervous again, but I knew I had to do it, and I went up, applied the stuff I learned, even just sort of an opener template that I learned, and I used it with her, interacted with the friends briefly, got them to like me, took her to a couch, and again, started escalating and connecting, and just really made a very strong connection. I ended up dating her. The girl in Chicago, she was in Chicago and I was in Michigan. So,
right.
But we stayed in touch for a really long time, and at some point it was just like pointless. But the point is, I formed a bond with these girls.
Okay.
I remember there was a real connection on that same night that we met. So the number, like you said, making sure the number turns into something. Those numbers meant something. It wasn't just some, nonsense, flaky number from a club.
Right.
Where the girl gets drunk and she maybe just gives it to you just because you ask and then doesn't remember you.
Right.
So those two things, they're, at this point now looking back, they're not that impressive, but those were, you asked, what changed everything for you, and what I realized was, okay, I studied this, I got instruction, I got coaching, and it made a big difference.
You actually made results
exactly
from the coaching that you had.
From the coaching, from what I learned. So shifting that paradigm from leaving your dating life, your sex life, meeting women up to fate or chance, that was out the window. That was done.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't leave your career up to chance. So the big paradigm shift was, instead of leaving my dating life, meeting women up to chance or luck or fate or going out and getting lucky.
Right.
It's the term guys use. I was done doing that, and I sort of started to see meeting women, connecting with women, just like you would see any sort of skill or something you're passionate about.
Right, like a sport. It's something you can control and develop.
Right, but not just with that dryness of like learning math. Like, okay, I know the different functions and the numbers is like a dry cold thing, but something that you're passionate about. The passion is what drives everything.
Right.
Because you gotta love women, right? We do. That's any guy watching this probably does. What's lacking is like a lot of information and experience. And so with that, guided experience, structured information, seeing it demonstrated, seeing examples, getting feedback on what you're doing right and wrong, just like coaching in anything, it's just like a sport, like you said, a sport that you love.
Right. Okay, really good. Do you have any examples of when you first started and how bad you were? Some where you got rejected left and right and just really bad, awful rejections, and then leading into some successful approaches where you were starting to approach some really beautiful women, and your skills, you saw that you were progressing and you were starting to become successful.
Yeah. I still, I'll remember it and it's be like, oh God, I can't believe it. What would happen a lot is I would scare girls because I wasn't trying to be scary, but I would get this a lot. I would come in too intense or just from the wrong angle, especially on the street. I really when I was first learning, I was still in college.
Okay.
I kind of graduated late. I played around and went to change schools a couple times. So I was getting into this stuff when I was still junior, senior in my undergrad, and Big Ten school, girls walking around everywhere. So that was really my bread and butter, was seeing all these girls, and that's where I wanted to meet women. I wanted to be able to just walk up to a girl on my way to class.
Right.
And so what would happen a lot is I would approach girls, and something about what I was doing, the energy, maybe I had too serious of a look on my face. I wasn't really having fun. I was in pickup artist mode, predator mode. Yeah. And I would get this a lot. At one time I actually had a girl, I tapped her on the arm, but I was kind of from behind, and she literally ran 3 steps away from me. And I felt so I was so embarrassed. And I looked around to make sure no one saw that. We walked home. And then in bars, nighttime bars and clubs, a lot of times I just get ignored. I'd try to talk to a girl and she would just look at me. Yeah. And then just turn
roll her eyes or something.
Yeah, just completely turn her back and talk to her friend.
Just completely devastated.
Yeah. And then there was that phase where I couldn't get the time of day, and then I couldn't get past hello. And then there was sort of a phase where instantly I was getting called out for running game and being a player. Girls would say oh, nice line, or just oh, you're real smooth, or they'd say something that would call attention to the fact that I was trying to be smooth or run good. And then they would try to mess with me. that's not the worst thing. I mean, you can actually play with that. Now, if a girl like tests me or teases me, that's awesome. Like, I give it right back to her and we're having fun now.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't know how to handle that, so I would just kind of be standing like flat-footed, like, no, that wasn't the line. You know? So that's typically what would happen to me when I was first getting started.
So when you were first getting started, how were you able to just keep going? I mean, a lot of guys are going to get rejected. This stuff doesn't work, obviously.